Well, we've been doing relief work actually for the last 10 years or so. But more recently we've been in South Africa, working with a humanitarian organization doing development, working with communities, and helping to build the community through sustainable programs like agriculture, provision of water, those kind of projects.
So would that be actually doing it yourself or managing that project, or?
It's working with the community. Generally those who are involved in doing something already that maybe isn't going as well as it could do, but they come to us and say, look, we really want some help in various areas. If it's agriculture, we can help them with setting up irrigation systems and help training them in how to use fertilizer appropriately. Really just developing that community, but it's very much in partnership. I want to stress that. It's very much in partnership with the community. They come to us and say, this is the kind of thing that we want, and then we come and offer some technical support in the areas that they want to. And, we suggest things, but what we're not about is coming in and imposing, maybe a Western mindset. This is how you're going to do things. This is how it works in New Zealand or the UK or whatever. It's very much appropriate to the local conditions.
So which countries have you been in, since doing this kind of work, and what have you done in those countries?
Well, as I say...
Feel free to give Julia a shot,
Okay. I'll start, and then Julia can do a few, and then we'll do a few that we were in together. I started off, as I say, doing relief work. I started off going to Brazil, which was actually with YWAM. I wasn't doing relief at that stage. That was my first entry into it. And then I went to a whole raft of places. Armenia, Kenya, where else did I go before you? Sudan, Kosovo, Albania. Yeah, we went there together.
He can't remember what life was like before me. I started out my missions, because I'm so important. In 1992, from this church, we went on a short-term 2-week trip to China, from Hong Kong into China, smuggling Bibles in, which was kind of cool. Got caught twice, very interesting. Then my next trip, I went to a Faith Bible College up in Tauranga, very determined for my middle term to go to Africa. So I managed to get to go to Mozambique for 7 weeks and South Africa for some of that time as well. I trained to be a nurse and had worked for a few years beforehand, so I got to work in a clinic in a really poor slum area in 94, and it was just before the elections in Mozambique, so it was kind of a real interesting time. After that, I heard about Kenya, and in Nairobi, so I went to Nairobi in 96, and I was there for a year, working with in a home for children who had been abandoned, who were HIV positive. And I was there for before I left, I said, no, God, I'm all for you. Men is a thing of the past. I'm going to be one of these single missionary women. And 2 weeks into it, I met Mark. A week, yeah. And he asked me out on a date after meeting me for 1 hour. Albania with Tear Fund, doing emergency relief work during the Kosovo crisis, and then we went into Kosovo for another 6 months. So that was a 9-month stint over in Eastern Europe. And came home to New Zealand then for 6 weeks, and then we went to Mozambique for the floods in 2000 with World Vision. And then I stayed home and worked in the emergency department, and Mark went to India with World Vision for 11 weeks and 1 day when the Gujarat earthquake happened then. We also went to Morocco for 3 months with World Outreach, which is the missions organisation we're with now. That was when I was pregnant with Hannah, our eldest. And then we left for Kenya in 2004, which was 3 years ago. So we went to Kenya for a year, and then we ended up going down to South Africa for 2 years, which is where we've been working, doing these community projects. So there you go.
Cool.
I know
Did you
what
get
I'm
all that?
about.
True. Why do you do what you do?
I think essentially because the Bible says so. My parents asked me this question, and it's because I have to. And I think once you start, you just can't stop. And when you're out there and you see such poverty and such suffering, and we need to be there. And I don't know if you guys have seen the interview from Bono from U2. And it's a very inspiring video. And
Bill Hybels, eh?
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, Bill Hybels and Bono, and you'll get it.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. And he talks about how in the Bible there's actually over 2,000 verses about instructions about what we are to do with the poor and the needy. And I was reading this morning in Isaiah 58. It says, the Israelites were moaning to God about how they'd fasted and done all these things, and, why aren't you answering us, God? And he says, I don't require those things from you. What I require from you is to feed the hungry and to help the oppressed. And that is time after time after time. That's what we're called to do. We're called to feed the hungry and do all that we can for people who are oppressed. And straight after that, it's really interesting, it's part of the same verse, it says, and then the light of God will shine. Out of darkness, light will come. And I guess over the years, people haven't thought what we do is missions work, because we're not church planting, we're not running Bible schools, we're not evangelizing as such. But that verse has really encouraged me because it says when we feed the poor and help the oppressed, the light of God comes. And we have seen that. We can't count off how many churches we've planted, how many people we've saved. But when you give a person dignity through and help some woman who's got 3 kids and, in Kosovo, there was women whose husbands had been murdered before their eyes, and we were able to provide them with toilets, and so that they didn't have to go squatting off in the bushes somewhere. That's just providing them with dignity, and people in this world deserve it. Going on a bit of a rave here, but there's this other video we've just seen, I don't know if you guys have seen it too, about the universe indescribable, and it's just talking about the universe and just how huge this universe is, and how we in our little solar system here is so insignificant to the universe, and it's all there to glorify God. And amongst all that, he is interested in us, each one of us individually. And so if he's interested in all of us, he's interested in each Cambodian child, he's interested in each Sudanese child, each Kenyan child who is dying of malaria, who is suffering, whose parents are dead. There's a whole generation of my age group, which I won't tell you because it's a bit older than most of you, but who are wiped out because of AIDS. This is our world, and it's suffering, and we have to do something about it. Yeah.